Hi guys, another one of my excuses for not tidying the table. Just had a comment on the video that this car comes from, or at least where it originated. The video in question doesn't have the yellow Volkswagen Beetle top on it. It's a Revell something or other. Can't remember. It looks like a rock crawler in its original shape. It's four-wheel drive, but it's got no suspension at all. It's absolutely rigid, so it'd be alright for a nice flat surface, but no use at all for going over rocks, or at least, yeah, being four-wheel drive there'd be a bit of benefit, but anything very uneven and it'll just get stuck. Anyway, found it in my junk pile, dug it out again. I know there's something wrong with it. I can't remember what the problem is, so I'm going to put some RC gear back in it and see if we can find the problem. I think it's just the main drive motor's dead. So if we get all these bits out of the way, I'd modified it from the original gear. It was 2.4 gigahertz, but it's that toy grade, so it doesn't match with anything else. So I swapped it all out, and I can't remember which bits are which in there at the moment. That's going to take a bit, well, I might have to take the cover off and figure it out. I think that's D for drive motor. I don't know. One of them will be for the battery. What I rigged it up was so we could have two ESCs, one for the steering because it's toy grade steering. It's just got a motor in there turning it full left or full right. There's no proportional steering. It's a bit stiff as well. I think the last time I used it down on the seafront, and I think it might have a bit of salt in there, a bit of rust, which won't help things. But I reckon if I use this little setup that I was using the other day on the TARDIS, I've got two ESCs there, which is what we had there. So I don't know. Well, that's got to be the drive and the steering. There's no question about that. So that one will be the drive. That one will be the steering, I would think. So why have I got two leads there? Ah, that makes sense. I've got a splitter in there, so it's one battery in, split for the two ESCs, which is what I've actually got just there. So it's one battery in, split for two ESCs. So that makes sense. Okay, so that looks good. 2S LiPo. Stick that in there. On-off switch. Oh yes. So what happens? It wasn't that controller that I was using. one of the other ones. Right, I have to go and find the controller. Back in a minute. I was just going to go out to the car and get the other transmitter because I've left it in the back of the car, and it's just realised I can just rebind it and then I can use this one, which makes more sense anyway. So, power off, power off. Okay. In fact, just unplug it entirely. Bind plug. There. Yes. Turn this one. There's the bind. Just there. Yep, so it's bind. Power. There. Okay, that should be binding. Off. Off. Stick that one back in there. Back in there. Back over. Okay, and because when we do that, that controller uses channels 1 and 2 instead of 2 and 3, which I normally use. That's more like it. That seems to be working. Oh, not much going on with the steering though. I did say that felt a bit stiff, but I think we probably burnt out the steering motor. That one off. Take the other one off. Right, so it's disconnected the steering. Doesn't feel very strong. So it might be a good idea to take it apart and have a look at the steering motor. See if that's all that the problem is. That's surprising because I thought I'd burnt out the drive motor. It seems okay. Yeah, alright, we'll have to take it apart and have a look at the steering motor. Or put a proper servo on there and make it proper control. Well, I think I've tracked down what the problem is. It's not the motor, it's not the gearing here, that's a reduction gearing to drive the little arm there that pushes the steering side to side. It's actually this linkage. I think what's happened is it's got salt water in it, and there's actually crystals or something up on the inside here where you can see it's all black and horrible, and that is quite literally stopping this linkage turning. It's really stiff. I'll just put that in upside down, but it doesn't matter. So that's the linkage for the right hand side. If I push all this back together carefully, and have got to do it carefully because there's holes here that the pillars or let's say axles, pillars, axles, shafts, that's the word I'm looking for. The shafts that got at the middle of these gears, on there and on there, on the pivots, they all link into these bits. So you've got to get it all in the right place, otherwise they don't pivot. So see if I can line it up. Right, I think we're in there. So if I now do the steering, right, I'll just reshoot that bit because I was zoomed in too far and you couldn't actually see what I was talking about. So I'll put the cover back on. All the pivot points for the linkages are all in place, but we've got the steering arm there disconnected. That one, because that's the one that's all jammed up and corroded. So without that on there, no change to the motor or anything else, we have steering, apart from the fact I'm using an ESC with a brake on it, which means when we go full right, we can't go left until it's reset itself. There we go. Yeah. I hate those ESCs. So yeah, it's working. So what I need to do is clean up that linkage arm, or steering arm, whatever you want to call it, and we should be in business and get a decent ESC. Right, that's one that I haven't cleaned. You see it's black and corroded, and that's one I have cleaned, nice and shiny. So the black one, well actually that one is going in that side. Yeah, it's a bit stiff on that side. Clean one, nice and loose. So I'll have to clean that one up as well. Using a bit of sandpaper and a rat tail file, as they're called. Well, looks like we fixed it just by cleaning out those two bearing surfaces. I can't think what you call them, where the screws go through the holes. And I did find another ESC, one that doesn't have a brake on it, or at least it has a switchable brake. So that's the steering fixed. That was my last one of them, so I'd rather not have a brake on the drive as well, but we're stuck with that at the moment. So if you just hold all that out the way. So, fixed. So that's another one to go and play with, but that'll have to be on a relatively smooth surface. That's not going to be off-road, and definitely not back down on the seaside, because that's what that was. That got salt water on it and corroded the bearing surfaces. Just a thought, I didn't mention it. Obviously, check my video description, because there will be a link to the playlist with the videos for this car in it, in its original format and with the Volkswagen Golf on it. In fact, I think I might even do another body shell swap on it, because I've got another one that should fit on there. Thanks for watching. If you like that, then you might like this. And if you like this and that, you might like to subscribe over there.